A decades-old murder case shattered by a chilling package, solved by DNA that finally broke the silence. For years, the case files lay dormant, a cold trail of unanswered questions. But sometimes, the smallest clue, overlooked for decades, can reignite a dying flame. There's a detail in this story you might have missed, a tiny thread that, when pulled, unravels a much larger, darker tapestry. This is the story of how science, patience, and a single piece of evidence brought a killer to justice, long after the trail had gone cold. The initial investigation into a young woman's disappearance yielded few answers. Years passed, and the case remained unsolved, a painful memory for those left behind. Detectives worked tirelessly, but the evidence simply wasn't there to pinpoint a perpetrator. The case seemed destined to become another unsolved mystery, lost to the passage of time. Then, a shocking development. A package arrived, containing a grim discovery that sent a jolt through the cold case unit. It was a piece of evidence that had been hidden, or perhaps forgotten, for years. This unexpected delivery reopened the investigation, bringing with it a sliver of hope that justice might still be served. The key to unlocking this decades-old mystery lay in a new scientific frontier: DNA analysis. This technology, in its infancy during the initial investigation, had advanced dramatically. Could this new science finally provide the answers that had eluded investigators for so long? The potential was immense, but so was the challenge of re-examining old evidence with new eyes. Investigators meticulously re-examined the evidence, focusing on minute biological samples. The process was painstaking, requiring a deep dive into old case files and a renewed commitment to finding the truth. What they discovered was a match, a genetic link that connected a suspect to the crime scene. This was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. The DNA evidence pointed to a man who had previously been cleared as a suspect. This reversal of fortune highlighted the power of scientific advancement in criminal investigations. The retesting of DNA, once an impossible dream, had now become the critical factor in solving a murder that had remained a mystery for decades. It proved that even the coldest cases can be solved. The first layer is context. Every documentary story begins before the moment people remember. There is a setting, a chain of decisions, and a public reaction that shapes how the event is understood. In the case of DNA Solves Decades-Old Murder, the important thing is not only what happened, but why the surrounding details made people pay attention. That is where the story begins to move from a simple summary into something more useful. It asks us to look at timing, location, pressure, and the way one moment can represent a much larger pattern. The second layer is what people often misunderstand. A single image or short clip can feel complete, but it usually leaves out the forces around it. Viewers see the result, not the build-up. They see the most dramatic frame, not the quiet details that made it possible. That gap matters because it changes the meaning of the story. When we examine DNA Solves Decades-Old Murder carefully, we are not just asking what is visible. We are asking what is missing from the first impression. Then comes the turning point. This is where the story stops being only about one scene and starts pointing to a bigger question. Why did this particular moment stand out? Why did people share it, debate it, or return to it later? The answer is usually not one simple fact. It is a combination of emotion, uncertainty, and recognition. People respond when a story feels specific, but also familiar enough to connect to something they already care about. Another important detail is the human tendency to look for a clean conclusion. We want a final answer, a clear lesson, and a single explanation that ties every loose end together. But strong documentary stories often resist that. They leave us with evidence, competing interpretations, and a reminder that public understanding is always incomplete. That does not make the story weaker. It makes it more honest. So what value can we take from DNA Solves Decades-Old Murder? The value is not just the event itself. It is the pattern around it. It shows how quickly attention forms, how easily context disappears, and how important it is to ask better questions before accepting the easiest version of a story. That is why stories like this continue to matter after the first wave of attention fades. In the end, DNA Solves Decades-Old Murder remains worth examining because it sits between fact and interpretation. We can see enough to understand why it matters, but not always enough to close the case completely. And that open space is where documentary storytelling becomes powerful. It does not tell us what to think. It gives us a clearer way to look. The story of the skull in the mail and the DNA that solved a murder is a powerful testament to the relentless pursuit of justice. It reminds us that the truth can lie dormant, waiting for the right moment and the right tools to be revealed. What other cold cases are waiting for a scientific breakthrough? Subscribe for more deep dives into crime documentaries and the stories that shape our understanding of justice.